I see the live icon.
Yeah, we're here. We're live. I'm just going to wait the first few seconds because I have to do one technical thing to get officially started. So then that's what I needed. All right, there we go. All right, I'm in everybody's faces. All right, let's get started here. All right, greetings, everybody. This is Rasa Angola.
And I am Jenna, and welcome to
People Talking Kale. I'm so glad we nailed that because last time we were a little bit off. All right, first and foremost, we want to wish all the warriors out there a happy Father's Day.
Yes.
You know, and if you're tuning in live, we want to thank you for taking the time from your, busy schedule with your family to talk about some Kali. And we also definitely want to thank our honored guest here today for taking time from his family. We want to honor none other than Paulo Rubio of Aperture Fight Focused.
What's up, everybody? Hey, I wouldn't have done this for anybody on Father's Day. I got a nice crab waiting on me downstairs, but I'm here for as long as you need me. I love you. I love what you represent. I love your spirit. The first time I met you, and so I am here partly, but for a big reason because of you and what you bring to the community. So thank you for having me, Jenna. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's our honor to have you.
Yeah, and definitely, Paulo, and just to reciprocate that, behind the scenes, Paulo, you've been a huge inspiration and push for me to just move forward and just tell a story. Keep telling your story. And so when we decided to actually have something for Kali on a live stream platform, it was you who was really an inspiration to say, you know what, Paulo's doing a great job and he's always pushing people to tell their story. And I consider, myself a griot in many ways and aspects. And so it was like, you know what, let's do this. So we consider ourselves like the small local news station, while the platform you're running is just like a much larger network. And so thank you also for taking the time to come down here from your family on Father's Day, good brother.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Let's get it. Let's get
it going. Let's get it going on, Paulo. All right. First and foremost here, okay, for those of you in the PTK world, you're probably on one end of the spectrum when it comes to Paulo Rubio. You're either saying, yes, this guy's doing great, man. He's honoring FMA. He's honoring PTK. Or you might be on the other end of the spectrum and you're saying, what's this guy doing? Get him out of here. Or you're somewhere in between. And so this is a great opportunity, Paulo, for people to hear you in your own words. So one of the first things we just wanted to just speak on is, how did you get here? Why FMA? And what is your vision with your platform and FMA?
Man, I didn't want FMA. First of all, I was just like, I think a lot of people, they have parts and pieces to what they think FMA is all about. So I came guns heavy with all these preconceptions and assumptions that ended up being wrong. And I readily admit those things. I've been wrong so many times. But, I started my FMA journey with Doug Marcaida. Okay, so that's another story about how he and I met, how we blended, how we became brothers, and then the eventual split. But it started with Doug Marcaida. And I will say this, as he was a very inspirational person. He continues to be an inspiring person, but he didn't inspire me in particular to take up the art, right? A part of that was because it felt inaccessible to me. A part of that was because I still had questions that continued to linger that had to do with the compartmentalization and the harmonization of art and functionality, okay? Plus, also, I was in my own world. I was trying to make a name for myself. I was trying to make videos, and its sole purpose was just to get views, was to gain influence. But then, as I continued this FMA journey, and it really did start with Doug, so much love and appreciation to Doug for being my launch off point. And then I met people like Ray Dionaldo, and then I met people like Jared Wihungi. And then I started talking to people like Bill McGrath. And then, I started to find out that, hey, there's more to this FMA. And in fact, even now, I barely scratched the surface. But the reason I am here, truthfully, is because of two people. And that's Grento Hanli Ogahe and Jared Wihungi. And if you will allow me to elaborate on why those two specifically, I would.
Oh, brother,
Please
this is
do.
why we're
Please
here,
do.
man. I think people want to hear you speak. Yeah.
So Jared Wihungi, because when I first met him, I didn't hear great things about him, and that's just by the nature of the people that I was around. But then here was a guy who was a SWAT operator, played football, towering giant of a man, but his demeanor was respectful, calm, polite, controlled. He didn't. I learned later how many fights he's been in and how many scraps he's been in.
Mm-hmm.
Never talked it up like it was a big deal. Never spoke about it. And then I was like, "Oh, you trained that person? Oh, you know that person?" Because I worked in the tactical industry. You know, I worked in firearms, guns, all that stuff. And then when I mentioned Jared, they're like, "Oh, Jared, yeah, of course. Sniper groups, you know, personal security groups, SEALs, Deltas, cops, Reg Force, Special Force." People just knew who Jared was. I'm like, why don't I know who Jared is? And that's because he's been quietly doing it this whole time. You know, he's one of the few people that I know that gets called back by department, state, or unit sanctioned training for, you know what I mean? Like he gets called back to South Korea, he gets called back to Brazil. He's everywhere in the United States.
That doesn't happen often in that world, these kind of callbacks?
It doesn't happen in this world, but you know, people often like embellish their accomplishments when it comes to teaching special forces, law enforcement, military, right? They say, "Oh, I trained Deltas. Oh, I trained SEALs." But the nature of these units is that they explore the totality of what's out there. So everybody gets a call eventually, but do you get a call back? You know, and oftentimes it's like, "Oh, I trained law enforcement," but really it's two of your cop buddies who showed up at an open seminar. So yeah, it doesn't happen that one gets called back a lot and consistently and over the years. It doesn't happen. It doesn't really happen.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to address something. You know, we're going to learn how to get some moderators on here. So naturally, there's going to be some trolling. There's going to be some negative energy. I'm not sure what the viewers are saying, but we're seeing some things on our end. So we're just going to keep this conversation positive, Paulo. We got your back 100%. And so just keep going with your story.
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you about the callback. So you're hearing about Jared, and here's this guy, but he's so humble. Continue, sir.
Yeah. So I continued to work with Jared, and every layer was like this onion. It's like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that." I mean, I go to this guy's house and he's got like Ziploc bags full of challenge coins and patches from all the units he's trained. I mean, he doesn't even have time to put it up on a frame or anything like that. But the second reason, so that's Jared. Jared inspired me to train. Jared inspired me to take up the art and to do TRICOM and to explore. Here's the other big thing. Jared encouraged me to explore the totality of FMA. He didn't say, "Hey, don't film with him, don't film with him, don't film with him." He said, "Film with that, film with whoever you want." And so because of his encouragement to explore the totality of FMA while I was working with him and while I was doing Funker Tactical and as I was building Aperture, man, the world just opened up. The world just opened up. And I don't know why he did that, but he did it. And I love him for it. Now, why Grand Tuhan Leo guy, right? Sometimes people see me as someone who antagonizes him. Perhaps some people get the impression that I disrespect him or that I don't like him. And again, I appreciate you giving me a forum to explain myself here. So let me explain my relationship with the Grand Tuhan himself.
I'm glad.
Okay. My family left the Philippines when I was 9. So 9 is a very, you know, if you've ever had a 9-year-old, you know 9 is a very special age. It's when you're getting to know the world. It's when you're getting to know that you're a human being. And that's when you kind of get a glimpse of, oh, I'm going to grow up and have to do things one day, you know? And I know who my aunt is. And I know that my aunt is, you know, my mom's sister. And that's when you're figuring out the world, right? The rest, pre-8, pre-9 years old, you're just kind of just enjoying it. 9, 10, 11, oh, man. So my family was a big family, tight-knit, De Leons and Rubios, and then I got plucked from that. All of a sudden, I was in Canada. I was in this fucking iceberg, and I was the only Rubio male next to my father. Only Rubio male in a new country. And the way my parents spoke of the Philippines was negative. That's why they left. We left the Philippines for a reason. I don't need to go there. So I was so detached from my roots, from my culture. And I didn't have a whole lot of Filipino heroes growing up, you know? Maybe a comedian. There's nobody, really. Because I didn't get to study Filipino history to the point where I could appreciate it. I knew about Rizal and Lapu-Lapu and all that stuff, but it was shallow. So I was completely disconnected from that.
Now we're talking, yeah.
And then PTK comes into my life. Whoo, man, blazing, it came into my life. And all of a sudden, you know, I meet people who appreciated Filipino culture and art and history. And it's got modern day relevance today that makes a difference in people's lives. And I clung to it, man. You know, I wanted a piece of it. I wanted, not a piece of it like I want to own it, but I wanted a piece of that thing that was happening. And who do I have to thank for that? The Grand Tuhan Leo Gahe.
Respect.
All respect and love goes out to this man. But here's why I treat him like I do. Okay? Some might say it's disrespectful or borderline disrespectful. I don't think so. I didn't get to grow up just listening to what Uncle said, to what Lolo said. You know, I didn't grow up where it was a blind faith and a blind loyalty to your elders. I grew up being an elder. At 10 years old, I was the only Rubio male in Canada. My father passed away when I was 19, 10 years after arriving here. So I was the only Rubio male. And so everything had to be at equal face value. Everyone I met was, hey, let's start off with a foundation of mutual equal respect. If I think you're wrong, I'll tell you. If you think I'm wrong, you tell me. But the humor in Filipino culture stayed in me. You know what I mean? The little, come on, Tito. So that's how I choose to address Grand Tuhan Leo Gahe. I don't owe him any sort of blind faith or loyalty. I just want to be his friend. You know? I just want to be his friend. He doesn't even need to train me. I want nothing from him. I just want to be his friend. I want to make him money. I want to make Grand Tuhan money. You know why? Because I know how aging Filipinos work, man. They're unhappy if they don't have security.
Oh, this is heavy. You know, this is beautiful because while you're talking, I know that it seems like one of your philosophies just on the forum, regardless of the martial art, is not to have that cult-like mentality, not to blindly follow, to always question, to always challenge. And so to see like where that philosophy started with you from your upbringing, that's just beautiful to hear. Appreciate hearing that. Definitely.
Trauma and pain, man. You know, it's not easy growing up in a strange country.
Yeah.
Your dad gone, trying to figure things out. Bro, I grew up with 3 younger sisters and a mother. You know what I mean? So I had to be that.
You had to be that. And so being a Filipino, that didn't play any part in wanting to train FMA and connect with that culture that you felt that you had lost, just out of curiosity?
It did. That's why I owe GT all this love and praise, was because it was his thing that connected me to my culture, my roots, my history. That's why I love the man. He could hate me, man. You know what I mean? He could choose to meet me face to face, which is going to happen in 2 weeks, and he could slap me in the face. I'm going to continue to love this man. I owe him a debt of gratitude that I don't feel I can actually repay. I can try my best. But the precursor to that is I still want baseline respect and equality. You know? But also, here's the thing, man. I'm a when in Rome kind of person. You know, when I meet him, I'm going to bend the knee and take his hand and put it on my forehead and show him I will bow as low as he needs me to. You know what I mean? I will respect his Rome. But this ain't Rome, man. This is real. This
is interesting. Yeah,
this is
you know,
world.
And I
But
think
when I'm a student, man, he can beat the living daylights out of me. I'll do the chicken blood thing. I'll do anything he wishes of me if I am his student, under the capacity of student. But once the lesson's done, we're equals again.
You know, this is interesting because it's so layered, because on the one hand, what you're talking about, you know, just as a PTK, you know how protective I can be. I've made mistakes in my being protective, but you know, it's good to see sometimes you challenge some of the things that I think some people are afraid to challenge. And then I think, like you said, some people may misunderstand how you're challenging, and it comes off as disrespectful. And what's interesting about what you said now is it's all playing out on the social media thing. But when you're hands-on, when you're face-to-face, oftentimes behaviors are different.
Yes.
And so it kind of gets into this dual double world where how are we behaving and acting on social media? And my interpretation of some of what you're doing is saying, not here. Please, let's not have this kind of conversation here. That's just me. Like I said, some folks might disagree.
No, that's fair. But I also think that the not here mentality when it comes to talking about FMA in general is what's held us back for so long. It's because who's listening if not here? The people who already know, who already care. I'm not trying to get those people, man. I'm trying to get people who have never heard of or have heard bad things about FMA and PTK, and I'm trying to get them on board. And I have.
Interesting. Yeah. Yes. You've definitely sparked some thought. I think so. I think you've definitely, you know, and I think that's what it is. You're bringing people for good, the good, the bad, and the ugly from your perspective. I definitely would agree with that.
And look, here's the thing, man. When people ask me, you know, what should I take? I say PTK is my base. I love it, but you may not love it, you know. And I always say take FMA, because eventually you may have a bad, and this is what I tell people who have had bad experiences with FMA too. All right, it's like, hey, did you marry the first girlfriend you ever had? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, did you switch teams afterwards? Did you like men or women afterwards? They're like, no. I'm like, well, that's FMA. Just because you didn't like one, it doesn't mean the rest is not for you.
We have to grow. We have to evolve.
You gotta grow. You can find Valenta Walk and in Pikiti, or vice versa. You can take Khaleesi Illustrissimo and then find Dikiti, and then you can find Baez Tres Manos, and you can find Modern Arnis. One of those is going to be a right fit for you, but even more so, an instructor is going to be the perfect fit for you. So that's why I say I love all of FMA. Bro, I used to hate on WeCAF. You know what I mean? I used to hate and I call it the red dress. You know, they put on the red dress and they put on the kendo mask, and everything is protected. And it feels like I'm sticking a pencil into an electric fan. Like, that's what those fights look like to me. It looks like that. And I hated on. I'm like, wait, why am I hating on? And then so many people put thoughts into my head like, oh, FMA is not a sport. It is a combat. And then people say, oh, it's an art. It's not this. I'm like, wait a minute. You're all wrong. It's all of those things. It's whatever you want it to be. And so I'm not hating on no FMA.
You know, and let me know if I'm wrong here. I liken it onto like maybe somebody trying to find a certain spiritual way of life. You know, when you may grow up one way with your parents, but then as time goes on, you evolve, and then you might find another way to express your spirituality that's slightly different. But inherently, all these spiritual systems are saying the same thing: one love. It's just a matter of the individual finding what's the best mode to express what resonates with their spirit. I think that's what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And I went through that path myself, you know, not to go off on a tangent, but I was raised Roman Catholic. I studied and I used to have organized debates with religious leaders. And it would always be like, all right, try to convince me. And then we would have like hours long, you know, from imams to rabbis, Jehovah's Witnesses. And the thing is, I gave it a shot. I explored it. And that's what I'm doing with FMA today. Not every system is going to be right for me. But I love it all because it's that connection. It's that higher. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. This raises a good point. And I got, you know, a couple of questions already emerging here, but just to get, you know, you have a lifestyle that allows you to travel.
Yes.
And you've set it up that way, and it allows you to be exposed to different systems. What would you recommend for somebody that agrees with you on the one hand, but doesn't have the opportunity to get all this exposure? You know, some folks just have one or two, you know, instructors, and you know where I'm going with the question. What would you recommend?
I'd say find the nearest one, first of all. That's the practical answer, okay? Find what's near you, find who's near you, learn from them. Because, man, when we put on the fencing mask and gloves, it's hard to really tell where somebody comes from. Pikiti, I can tell because I'm exposed to it, you know? I can tell the Pikiti fighter. But at the end of the day, you know, just take FMA, find the nearest one. But here's one that might be a little contentious, okay? I feel like you don't even need an instructor. I feel like if you've got good friends around you, fight them. Learn from them. Learn from each other. You know what I mean? Watch the videos, take the online courses. But if you have a good group of people near you, oh man, doesn't the learning go so fast? And that's how MMA started. You know what I mean? In the late 80s and all throughout the 90s, man, these badass dudes were in garages experimenting, testing. And then when the UFC came out, then it got ramped up. And these are the old school dudes who made discoveries on their own.
Yeah.
But you can do that with FMA. Man, I'm still trying to figure out how to land my angle one. You know what I mean? Like with the right footwork, with baiting.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I mean, in some way, I could understand where you're coming from. You have that lifestyle, and so someone you're saying shouldn't find an instructor. They shouldn't find a home. They shouldn't start off with. They should teach themselves.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if they can't have the best option, which is find an instructor, right? And they're like, it's either nothing or something. And I think a great something is digest all of this information available online. And by the way, watch the YouTube videos, but pay somebody. Pay Jared Wihungi, Pikiti University. Go pay Tuhana Paulo Ladra for his. Go pay Greg Nelson for his online course. Pay you if you've got an online course. People need to start paying FMA instructors, man.
Right. You're saying keep moving forward. Don't let that inhibit you. Find a way. If you got to be by yourself, just find a way.
And you know, man, sometimes the situation is they have an FMA instructor in their area. He's the only one there, and they don't like him.
Right.
That's fine.
That's deep.
Study it on your own.
Yeah.
There's enough.
I always say, but find boxing. Yeah, we always think boxing is always from our perspective. You got a boxing gym, get started.
Yeah.
Paulo, let me ask you a question. What is your gripe with Live Blade, man? Why every 3-4 months you got a video? Look, let me tell you where I'm coming from. Every time you got a Live Blade is useless video, I'm like, man, this guy's hurting my brand, man. You know, people going to put word association with Live Blade and useless. I'm halfway playing right there.
Yeah, I know.
But I know you got a couple of videos, and so yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, so for Live Blade, I don't forget I put almost useless.
correct.
I know it's not useless, but I think people misconstrue when it's not Live Blade training. It's the training part that I disagree with, because when two people have live blades in their hands, they're not training. They're not trained. They're testing. It is a test, right? You are poking at the bear, something deep inside you, managing your fear, being highly cognizant and aware of how this. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about live blades, man, because I have so much respect for live blades. I just think that too often, and I will set you aside for this. You don't count this, but too often it is a sign of like this bravado that it's an individual choice, where oftentimes instructors will say, you are ready for live blade. Like, you don't know me. You don't know what I'm actually going to do with this live blade. Now I got to exercise extreme caution of movement as this other person with a live blade. You don't know what trust I've developed with this guy. You know what I mean? People don't respect the live blade is what it is. And it's a shallow interpretation of when and what the live blade is meant to be. And that's why I've set you aside, because I know you put thought into it.
Absolutely.
Okay?
I'm so glad you got to say that. And and even in our students would say, I mean, we're not pulling out live blades, it's definitely training. It goes back to the training part.
Although, you know, it is something to say that this idea of the trainer is a new phenomenon. I mean, not that people have like live sharpened, you know, ready to behead blades, but before this time where, FMA became something that's worldwide,
Right.
and as
Right.
on blast as it is now, I think that, a lot of, elder practitioners were using maybe dole, but they were, actual. And I think that spoke to a level of precision that was required and foundation building that's required that we don't see as much now. People just kind of want to jump to the application, jump to fanciness.
And back when it was common, it wasn't special.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
Now it's like something like, okay, I get you. But I got nothing but love for people. Here are the two caveats for me. May I? Oh, I don't know. No, you go ahead, because I'll remember my two caveats. What's the point you want to make?
No, I was going to say we're on the same page. For us, it's almost like certain codes. If someone's talking about live blade, they almost don't know what they're talking about. It's almost like who and when are people talking about it? What's the atmosphere? If it's an instructor being irresponsible, such as you said, they need to be exposed. Absolutely. There's a time and a place.
Yeah, people wear it like, live blade is an Instagram post, man. Live blade is a humble brag nowadays. It's become something that it shouldn't be, man. And in my own messed up way, I'm just trying to bring it back to the old school when it was something special.
That's right.
Because nobody was saying how special it is and making, oh man. And here are the two caveats for me. Live blade, where live blade training is important, is in deployment and cutting tests. You need to practice how to deploy the blade that you carry. You know what I mean? Maybe people do it, but I don't think that it's glorious enough. I think that's where the glory is, man. Train how to deploy this live blade when a dude's on top of you. You know what I mean? And that requires a specific set of parameters, but just on your own. Boom, deploy it from here. I soaked my hands for 10 minutes straight in icy water, and I tried to manipulate all my blades. Because I live in Canada. You know what I mean? It's cold. And the blood here is the first to go under these conditions. So I train live blade deployment, and I train to cut with the blades that I have. And I buy pork butts and like beef bones, and I wrap it, right, in fabric that I find where I live. Bubble jackets, down jackets, leather jackets, under layers of cotton fabric. And I cut with it with resistance. Because I need to know how this blade works, and I need to know that I can, at the very least, deploy it under pressure. Because I don't know if my skill sets will manifest when I gotta cut somebody with a knife, but I need to get it out. So those are the two most important for me.
Right. Well, speaking of training, how do you find? And I asked my husband the same question. Like, how do you find the time to balance both? This world where you're like, posting on all these social media outlets and, dealing with your own social media managing your own social media outlet, and then your training, and then being a fan. My husband will ask me, did you see what I put on this or that? And I'll be like, no, I didn't. I don't know how you all do that. Like, how do you have the time? We
do a lot during our day, Paulo, but to sit through the pages, I want to be more active on the social media with the amazing things with so many people. It's just so hard to keep up. I have to have a certain amount of screen time per day, and I can't go beyond that. So
that's the difference between you and me, is you have a life.
No, stop.
I don't have a life, man. No, honestly, how do I find? I take on the Chad Lyman philosophy, and that is train a little, a lot. If it's 10 minutes in front of a mirror, I'll swing that stick. If it's 30 seconds in between loading time, when I'm watching my kid play his video game, I'll do it. I train all the time. But I don't know what it amounts to. Sometimes I call it, I call it dicking around. I dick around a lot. When I walk, I practice my triangle footwork. I practice my balance on curbs and parking dividers. When I'm walking around, I walk my kids to school almost every day. And in the wintertime, they throw snowballs at me, and I hit it with my rattan stick. In the springtime, they throw acorns. So I'm constantly training my accuracy.
Right. No, let me ask this a different way then, because I do know that. Yeah. How much time do you spend away from a screen? How's that?
Ooh, that
happens often. I think that's more of the question Jen is saying. Yeah, your screen time is deep.
Yeah, my screen time is heavy, and the reason for that is because I'm editing all day. 9 to 5, is when I edit. I'm already on the screen. So when I hear a ding, it doesn't take much for me. And sometimes I need a break from my creative pursuits to go boop, boop, boop. But I also have my phone. You know what I mean? I'm managing all of this. And so for me, it's I kind of my world is flipped, you know. It's like I schedule off screen time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So between dinner and my kids' bedtime, try to keep it off.
Right.
But I'm in the
Right.
matrix.
Yeah. Do you think it's because you're so you know, like you're responsive, like you're very I've only seen like a little bit of certain things, and sometimes Angola will like tell me about something that's really important or something I need to know, but you know, I'm like, wow, he responds. And there's like a lot of people too, like not just you, but a lot of, you know, people who are instructors or who are, you know, active members in PTK, they'll like respond after response after response. Sometimes they're, you know, they're ongoing debates, sometimes, you know, but do you think it's because you're so responsive that you're getting the following that you're getting, or do you think it's because more that you're kind of
I think so. I've you know, after having helped a few people navigate through their growth trajectory, I feel like there's at a point where you're not getting a whole lot of response, and so you meet that with less effort, right? So you're not getting the response that you think you should be having, and so you put less effort towards it. It's like this balancing act, and then it starts going up.
Right.
And then you got this thing where like you post something, everyone's responding. And so that's when you're at your maximum. And then beyond that, you got too many people responding and you don't have time.
Right.
Right. So then you go back and you know, the pendulum swings the other way. I just think I'm at that zone where I'm building growth and I'm building influence. And therefore I have to match that with responses. And you know, it was instructor Zero who kind of instilled this in me during his massive growth. You know, it's that he goes, Paulo, these people are taking their time to engage with you. The least you can do is respond. That is the least you can do. But it's cumulative, man. Like it takes up a lot of your time. For me, it's like the lesson that I want to share with everybody, right? Is I need to suppress my emotional responses to things. Right? Because I care so deeply about FMA and PTK specifically that my emotional responses, I've been ashamed, man. I've been embarrassed by some of my commentary. I'm like, you know, I wake up the next morning and I'm like, oh, I was an asshole. I was a complete dick. And I shouldn't have. And I'm like, oh man, do I delete this? And I leave it because typically I believe in the point that I made, but not in the way that I said it. And I'm just like, fuck, that's not me, man. It's embarrassing, bro. It's
hey, you've seen I've made mistakes. You know that.
Yeah,
you know what's interesting is now it's kind of all this screen time from all these instructors. It's now, I'm exaggerating, but more people spending more time commenting and talking and posting videos, and it's like this other virtual PT culture that's going on. And if you're not hip to that, which is kind of what Jenna's point is, where she's like, I'm not on these forums and what's moving and shaking in that world. And so it's interesting. On the one hand, you are bringing so many, and then I think you're doing a good job. You have to now navigate it. You know, your responsibility now is like this, you know, this platform that you're managing and growing.
Well, I feel a sense of ownership to them. I brought them in.
Yeah.
So I got to guide them. The amount of messages that I get of, well, what do you think about this? And okay, please don't post this video, but I just want to show you, man, it's nonstop. And it's the stuff that people don't necessarily get to see, but I care about FMA. I care so much about its future. And honestly, to a large degree, why I care also, aside from my selfish reasons, which is, you know, for me, my family, my culture, my art, is for people like you, man, for people like Jared, people like Lars in Germany, you know, for Riddell, the Gook in the Philippines, you know, for the Sunny Seasons, and, you know, all of these instructors, man. I feel like there's a lot of pain in FMA, you know? There's a lot of why not us? There's a lot of why not me? You know what I mean? What's up with this Taekwondo school? How come they got 300 students? There's a lot of that. And I want to serve. I want to serve people. And for now, I make videos and somebody from Mobile, Alabama decides they all of a sudden want to take FMA. And some guy I don't even know who took FMA, who lives in Mobile, Alabama, all of a sudden got one extra student. You know, that's propagating the art to me, right? But now, you know, let's make some online courses. And people are hating on online courses. They're like, you guys don't know that's the future. You know, technology is going to advance. You think it's shallow? Just wait until technology catches up with FMA. There's a technology company that I'm working with here who works in virtual reality, who can track motion. And you attach a motion tracker to your stick, and all of a sudden your instructor is getting stats about your angles and your speed, and you can make corrections. I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't see, and it's a lot easier to attack somebody like me based on my posts, my divisiveness, my controversy. It's easy to see that, but I'm still here. What's going to define me isn't the fact that, quote, I like controversy, because I don't. I like speaking truth. What's going to define me isn't that I upset a few people. What's going to define me is that I stayed, and I'm still here. And 10 years later, I'm still here. You know what I mean? And then you can look back on my track record, and then you can make a decision about how you actually feel about me. But for now, it's an emotional response, and I'm okay with people hating me, right? I'm okay with that, because at the end of the day, maybe I started a conversation in your garage, in your gym. Oh, fuck this guy, Paulo. He said that live blade training's almost useless. This fucking guy. You're talking about me, and you're not talking about me because I love hip hop. You're not talking about me because I love fishing. You're not talking about me because I love drama and theater. You're talking about me because I love FMA. Job done, you know? I'll get my opportunity to be your friend eventually. But for now, talk about FMA because it's some dumb shit I said, maybe.
Okay. You got a question? I got this. You're sparking some thought over here, sir.
No, I was going to say that, you know, I was actually just getting ready to ask you that, because, you know, there are some people who are already a part of the community who you're just having a dialogue with. And then there's some people who kind of walk into it like wanting to get to know it, and then they might be exposed or see something that is like a debate or dialogue and say, well, what's going on here? And that might affect how they perceive the art to be. But the beautiful thing is that, like, you're not claiming to be any title or anything that would make you in you know, plain terms, like, responsible.
Yeah, I'm not credible at all. I'm sorry, Jenna. I think I might have interrupted.
Oh, no, I was just saying that, you know, have you ever felt like maybe sometimes the way that the conversation is going is not the best for someone who's like trying to just, you know, get some general information or interest, you know, about the class or learning about, you know, Filipino martial arts? Do you think that might dissuade them because all they might jump on and see is like a debate because of, you know, one particular, so a statement that someone might have made about something you've shared, or, you know?
Sure. I think if somebody is ready to pull the trigger, so to speak, on taking FMA, none of my posts are going to dissuade them from doing that. Okay. You know what I mean? They're not going to go, oh, wait a minute, there's politics. Paulo's Facebook page is discussing. No, they're not. I don't think it's going to dissuade them. I think, if anything, the thing that I don't like doing is I am bringing up old wounds, and I am rehashing conversations that have already been had. And that's painful for a lot of people. And that's a fee, you know, that's a fee I got to pay.
Now that's in regards to the politics. Now, in regards to, let's say, the history and the culture.
Yes.
Because as Jenna was talking, she had me thinking about something.
I got you.
Know, and I agree that I don't think you really can dissuade anybody. I think at the most part, you provoke thought, and it's, you know, whether your information is accurate or people disagree with it. I mean, you're provoking thought, and you're moving beyond, you know, you're trying to move people past a certain point. But I know there's been certain posts, for example, regarding history and culture, that some of my students ended up coming back and asking me questions about. And I was like, you know what, let me give him the opportunity to, I mean, it ties into this responsibility that, you know, Jenna's saying about what does it mean, but also just to hear in your words, how much of this martial training should be immersed with history and culture. So before you answer that, what I mean specifically, I think I saw a post where it was saying myth versus fact. Myth. Kali is the indigenous mother art. Fact. Arnisa Screama, and it went into this whole thing. And then that started a great conversation in the comments.
Yeah.
Jen is not going to read, we got, so not everyone's going to be able to.
I get there too, man.
Yeah, and then some of my students too, they just, they're going 2 comments in, and then, so now here, it was good for us because it had us go into our research. We're scholars here and into our origin and defend our points. But, it kind of lent itself to say, well, is there a responsibility that if we're talking about now culture and history, is it just about provoking thought? Should there be a more responsible way we present some of this information?
Yeah.
XYZ.
With documentation, there should be no conversation, but we don't have that. So what it is this rich tapestry of ifs and maybes, of oral histories, of people defending and saying that's not true. That's part of FMA. I'm not going to change that. It doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter if Grand Tuhan Leo Gahe did this and that. And it doesn't matter if it was from the Majapahit Empire and it was influenced by the Spanish or doesn't matter, man. The fact that this is a Filipino art. And I think when Filipino scholars argue for or against this being a completely indigenous art, I think that's an ego conversation. I think it doesn't matter. I think it doesn't matter. We learned it. We got it. We honed it. We perfected it. We polished it. And through that, we expanded it. And it was brought to your hands. The tribalism and the mysticism and the history, all that, that can be discussed endlessly, right? For every scholar who says one thing, there's a scholar who says the other. It doesn't even matter what I think. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter.
Correct.
Let them discuss it. You know what I mean? The thing that matters to us, the thing that should matter to our students, to your students, is that you are the channel with which they enter through this family, this brotherhood. That's what should matter. Does it matter if it was 1792 instead of 1781? Does it really matter how much the Spanish influenced the Contradas? I mean, it matters to some people. Maybe their love is for history and all that. Not to me. You know what I mean? It's FMA. You're not going to get rid of the F part. You know what I mean? So I think FMA's near history is much more important than its far history, because the near history is documented. The far history will remain as ambiguous as it has always been and up for debate. People are going to find proof, right, in the future. They're going to find a scroll. Oh, that's the proof. Oh, this guy's notebook said this. Oh, that's proof. And then another guy's going to be like, oh, but this scroll said this. It's never ending. That's not me. I just want to put on a mask and hockey gloves and smash.
It's like we're so long here, and that's why I want to kind of unpackage this, because it's like, yes, and then I want to humbly challenge and say, for us, there is a level of cultural immersion a student should have when training Pakiti Tirji Kali. The understanding of certain terminology, the understanding of certain languages.
Yes.
That's
the history stuff. That stuff we can know and talk about. But whether or not it was Indians, Indonesians, or Spanish, and blah blah. I mean, I think it's beautiful the way it is, undocumented, and the conversation continues. But hey, man, on that note, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to you. Thank you to you for being so almost militant about learning the history and the terminology and the culture and the art, man. I mean, I'm kind of getting teary-eyed, but I mean, that means a lot to me, I don't know if you've got Filipino in your blood or anything, but you got Filipino in your blood is what I'm
saying. What it is, we feel a cultural connection. Culture is very important to Jenna now, and especially the culture of colonized people.
Yes.
And what we find globally is that the experience of people who have been colonized, there's some similar things, whether they're in the Filipino region, Indonesian region, in the African region, in South American region, indigenous Native American tribes. And there's this aspect of history and culture that, has been lost. And for a long time, history has been written in a way to make these cultures appear savage and appear unintelligent. And these were then given justification for atrocities that of all kinds of atrocities. And so you can't change history. We're not the type of people who are mad about the past, but we do think that there's something about claiming a history and a culture prior to the colonial influence that tried to destroy it.
Right. And also I can just assume that there are, in particular to PTK, I think that there are just as many, if not more, people who are not Filipino training PTK around the world as there are people training PTK who are Filipino. And, I always try to assert when I'm teaching, even if I'm just teaching a women's class or I'm just talking to our group, I always say that we are humble guests and we are grateful for the opportunity to share what we have learned from the Tortal family. And I always make sure I say that because a lot of times people will learn these very indigenous and or traditional and culturally based systems, and then they take it over and apply it to what they do or what they've already been doing, and they don't pay homage to where they've received the information. And then it becomes this McDonald's commercialized, usage of a system, and they don't pay homage. And I think that's just, and this is no offense, that's just a very Western way of kind of moving. And I think that it's always important to pay homage.
Capitalism. I mean, we're trying to, we're not political, we're talking about it.
Right, yeah. I think it's always important to pay homage, especially since even though, the cultural specifications may not be 100% there, we can still look at PTK as a direct lineage from a particular family. And so it's not so aloof that we're like, oh, this came from the hidden temples and we know it's come from a family. So we have to pay homage to that and be happy that we're able to learn from this family. And
let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
If it was definitively proven that PTK did not come from the Tortal family, how would that affect you?
Well, I don't know if it'll, number one, I think that the fact that it is what sold me, what kind of let me feel a sense of not that I would say I have the complete understanding of PTK. I always look at myself as a baby in PTK. But I think that when you're learning something, I think knowing its origin, knowing what you're doing, it gives it more, there's a level of meaningfulness that you do have to assert out of something.
So do you read meaning? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm saying I think that's an important part of doing what you're doing, because
100%.
When you decide to be a teacher, you've also decided to be a student. So the more meaningfulness that you can get out of what you're doing, I think it makes it a more complete experience. And I also feel like because we have a knowledge in history and there's people who we can say have, learned this art, its effectiveness becomes not necessarily validated, but it becomes real. A lot of times people do things that are more fundamental because we can't track its source, but because we can say, no, this was something that was a critical part of this family's way of self-protection or way of life, then we can look at its effectiveness a little bit differently. So I think it's really important to have a certain cultural connection to what you're doing.
For sure it's important, but to repeat my question, and I'll ask both of you this.
Yeah.
How would it affect you if this is a hypothetical, so you just got to accept it, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is the case, but if it was definitively, without a shadow of a doubt, proven that PTK did not come from the Tortal family, how would it affect Ross and Jenna?
Just to answer that question, it would only make me a better practitioner. In other words, not the fact that XYZ, but any truth is the truth. You see what I mean? And so it's not so much, oh, this is where it from and this is why I'm here, but it's for, I think what Jenna is saying is, it's still going to be Pakiti Tirji Kali.
It is
still, what I mean? Love is still going to be love, like we talked about in terms of spirituality. It doesn't matter what book you're reading, the underlying foundation is love. But just to kind of back this up again here, from us, okay, born and raised here, Bronx and Philly, there's a lot of false warrior cultural traditions out there wasting a lot of people's time and a lot of people's money. And you got a lot of people, like what Jenna is saying, taking information, starting their own system, X, Y, and Z. And so for us, and I think that's why what Jenna said, that's kind of what sold her on it, not so much sold her that, oh, it's about being a total, but knowing that this is not some 2-3 years ago, just put together cookie cutter system that sounds good, but that people could actually say, all right, yeah, there's a couple of family members here that trained it. It was more that it's coming from a source that could be somewhat traced and not something that's in a vacuum. And for us, that's important.
Yeah, because I would have questions. If I didn't know that where this definitively came from, I would be like, where did this definitively come from? I would have questions.
Yeah.
So then I don't think I've still gotten an answer. How would it change you?
I think that, well, it wouldn't necessarily change who I am, but I think as far as training the system,
it wouldn't make us love PTK any less.
Right.
You know, if anything, the truth of the matter is that, you know, how could it change Pikiti Tirji Kali? And part of the problem that's going on, thank you, and I hope I'm answering your question here, is this is the cognitive dissonance that's going on with the world. People hold these beliefs and then they're presented with new information and they can't let go of the old way. And then what happens is they reinforce their initial wrong belief even stronger. And that's going on in many. So we're not going to be guilty of that. That's why I'm saying, if information is provided, like you said, beyond the shadow of doubt, if anything, that's the presentation of truth should always make you stronger and make you better, even if that truth hurts initially. You know, that's part of what we were saying with this understanding of like a colonial mindset. A lot of times you're raised thinking a certain truth about the world because your parents indoctrinated you with this and so on and so forth, but you have to be able to accept the truth and move on. So whatever truths are revealed about Pikiti regarding history and culture, it's not going to move us. What's more important is that this is something that's just not made up. You know, like I said, based on our upbringing, it's very important to have a source. Are we just,
Look, man, where's your family from?
My family's Haitian.
You're from,
but I'm born and raised in the Bronx. Yeah.
Yeah, but you've got Haitian blood. Man,
that's right.
I love the Haitian people. What about you, Jenna?
My family is West African. Both sides are both from Ghana. Yeah.
So you take PTK from anyone, Tortal or not. The warrior is you. The warrior is in your lineage. It's in your blood. It's what you choose to do with it. Because this same Tortal family system can easily be bastardized by people who don't honor and respect and embody and channel the warrior spirit. Tortals have nothing to do with that. I'm sorry. It's you two. It's you two specifically as warriors, as instructors. It's you who brings life to PTK. Because here's my thought now, right? We know about its near history, but we don't know what happened like in this is still near history, but like in 1880, you know, in 1890, in 1910, in 1920, you know what I mean? Like which systems, right? Because you can a generation can only go back.
That's right.
A certain time. Where did it all come from? What was, you know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. It's you two. You two are phenomenal instructors. I can see it. You're building communities, right? You're building warriors. You have made PTK into something that you think PTK was meant to be. Nobody else did that. Nobody else did that, guys. Because I've seen the same curriculum.
Paulo, we're on the same page here. I want to add to it though. We're on the same page here. Look, it's innately us. Okay, I want to be a chef, right? Let's just use a different metaphor. I want to be a great chef. I have it in me to cook. Yes. You know? Yeah, I could go to the supermarket and just start throwing stuff in the pot and just like, you know, learn from scratch. Or I could try to learn something about cooking. You know what I mean? And now I have a couple of different options of where I want to go to cooking school, you know? And so for us, everything that can't be traced from some kind of source, you're right. You could always go back in time. And even the 1800s is kind of recent for us. Let's go back, you know, 1,000 years or to these ancient empires and stuff like that, you know? But, you know, I don't want to go to McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? Or you know, if I had the opportunity to learn from a chef who learned, but the style that the food that the chef is cooking, where he learned it from was 6, 7, 8 degrees removed. but I also have the opportunity to learn it from the chef right there. He just came over and he's still got, for us, it's just a matter of, you're absolutely right. It is the person that takes the material and makes it blossom, but it's also the conduit for us. It's also the instructor that helps to set the tone of what that path and what that journey is going to be. And we have been on a journey where sometimes in our exploration of being great chefs, man, we wasted a lot of time eating some bad food.
Well, here's the thing. I think martial arts and cooking is it's perfect. The analogy is perfect. It's beautiful. Because while you can have great chefs who come from a long lineage in history, you also find Michelin star, just like the best chef in the world, who just learned from mom, who just learned from dad, who just learned from grandma, right? And so the validity of a fighting system, as is the validity of food, is its relevance to your palate today. It doesn't matter how good something may have tasted back then. If you can't cook that recipe from 1,000 years ago and it doesn't taste good to the people today, of what value does that recipe have other than historic and artistic value, right? So yes, you can learn from cordon bleu with Chef Fufu, right? But maybe grandma had the fucking recipe. You know what I mean? Maybe she had the recipe. So you don't need to go far back. You don't need to go too far, particularly in fighting, and particularly in food, and particularly in music, right? These three things is really what define culture, is it not? You know what I mean? Music.
Okay,
food,
this is good. So if someone wants to play the blues, you can learn to play the blues.
Yeah.
But I want to learn to play the blues for somebody who lived the blues. I guess that's all I'm saying. And I mean, I can find that kind of soul in there on my own. But if I didn't have grandma to point me in the right direction, I want to at least get as close as I can for us. And this is a great conversation. You're challenging. I'm gonna walk away from here. I'm gonna process all of this, But for me, I want to learn the blues, and so I want to learn from. There's some Muddy Waters. He's gonna teach me the blues in a way, or he's gonna sing the blues in a way that's gonna be different than someone of this generation who's living in a certain lifestyle and is a little and then they're playing the blues.
I don't know. I think that's an assumption that may be fair on the surface level, but I don't actually know that. I don't actually know if somebody is as great as B.B. King. I don't know. So it's an assumption that we make, and I think it's a safe assumption to say that those who came before us were greater than who we are today. But where did these people come from? It's a cycle. And here's the thing, Ross.
Yeah.
We are living in historical times in FMA right now. You understand this, right? I'm talking about people like you, people like Jared, right? This is going to be the Tatang Illustrissimos. This is going to be the Tortals. People like you don't realize how historic you are. And this is a part of my message. It's like we're looking to the near past at imperfect men. Okay? Because if you knew anything about what the Philippines was actually like back in the day, man, these people were assholes. You know what I mean? These people were gangsters. These people were the ones who didn't get the engineering, the doctor jobs, the lawyer jobs. During the 50s, right? The height of the Pearl of the Orient, the Philippines, right? Where people were architecture, engineering, right? Like we were building infrastructure and there was high society and art. There were still the guys in the barrios fighting with sticks, So and these were gangsters, man. And now we see them as, these profound beings. I'm like, no, because I spent time with them.
Right. Well, I don't agree with that. Right.
Hey, Jenna, they didn't do it for the art back then.
Right.
They did it because they were fighting dudes next door.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't this glorious Renaissance.
I agree 100%. I agree that, especially if we weren't there to understand. I agree with that. And I can say, I humbly understand that how people manifest what made something a system is not necessarily what we assume it could be. We think it's this glorified thing, but that may not always be the case. And it is not just talking about FMA, that's talking about many things. Yes. However, I do think that the person who manifests and help, encourage us on the way was someone who we pay homage to, because somebody, and I think that if you're paying homage to someone who instructed you correctly, motivated you, showed integrity, strength, and character, that's very important to me. And so I'm not a seeker either. I don't glorify any man, any woman because because they look good or they're shiny. Everything that glitters isn't gold. However, I do look for, instruction. If I'm going to look for instruction, I do look for the character integrity of someone. And so if someone's representing something with a strong sense of character and integrity, I'm not saying that they didn't just get that out of the blue, because they could have had a family full of a-holes and now they're just deciding to be great. But I also want to honor their commitment, their time, their family legacy, what brought them to be able to manifest that to myself. And so I think that's more than me saying, oh, all these great instructors in the Tortal family, I respect them. I don't know. I haven't met these people, but the Tortals that I have met, have always manifested to me a level of integrity and have always encouraged us. And I think that's just very important to experience when you have someone who's in your corner, who's in, and is coming and dedicated to making sure the future is better. Because I don't think that people in the past were better. I think that every generation, that passes should get better. That may not be happening, but may or may not. But I do think that my children, I want them to be better than me. But I do think it's important to pay homage, and so there is something that I look for when I'm selecting an instructor. I'm a teacher myself, so I look at people's practice and integrity. That's the first thing I look for. And so when I see that's what I mean. If I didn't know who was really the driving force, who was encouraging us to train, who is Tuhan Ramel Tortal, I would be like, I don't know, where's this coming from? Who's these people? I would be questioning him, like, where are you going? When I first had the baby and he was training most of the time, I'm like, where are you going? You going to Texas? Who are these people? I don't know these people. But it's because of these people that I decided to say, okay, these are people who represent a culture and their generation and their time that I want to also ensure as I'm training and
teaching. This is a great combo. I'm loving this. Paulo, you sound like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, so Jenna, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're really telling me is personal interaction matters more. The fact that you actually know this person.
Right.
My wife is the same. When I'm going off somewhere, I'm like, oh, I'm sleeping at this guy's house. I'm like, who's this guy? But when they meet that person, I can sleep at his house anytime, not even questions asked, right? It's because we have an actual, almost tangible connection with our instructors. And this is why I want to empower you two. You two are historical. This is history. And this is why I feel, and I don't want to dissuade you from honoring the past as far down as you want to go down that past. But what matters is now. And what matters are your instructors who taught you. Honor them. You know what I mean? Just as your students will honor you. You go back too far in Filipino martial arts, and the waters get real muddy. We don't have the Japanese scrolls. We don't have these things. And the cool thing is, this video, your notes, your videos, that's documented history. That is history that is documented. Because FMA is new. I'll say it, right? FMA is new. We don't have a long history that is documented. We got 8mm with no sound. We got VHS that's like 10 years away from completely being totally degraded. And, people don't digitize this stuff. So these conversations that we're having right now, hey, I at least want to be known historically as the guy who let you guys know that you're being historic and other people like And this is not the first time I've told people.
You're saying that it's a huge honor. Like I said, we see ourselves as kind of like the little local news source.
Not even.
You have a huge network, Paulo. So we honor
the renaissance of FMA. The renaissance of FMA is now. So paint, man. Paint and put that shit in galleries. That's all I'm saying to people. Paint. Show it, document it, because we've lost our near history through a lack of documentation, through secrecy, to not here, let's talk about it there, right? We've lost all that. And so if I can play a part and be selfish, right, and have a legacy in FMA, it's the thing that people tell me, you may be controversial, but at least you're getting people to talk. I'm like, yeah, man, let's get it out.
Right.
Let's get it out. And you know what? Honestly, bro, I've gotten like death threats. I've gotten challenges to fight. I was at the Blade show. Somebody talking to me about like, hey, these PSYOP guys want to execute you. I'm like, what a fucking Blade show, dude? What the hell? No way. You know, I've gotten death threats. I pay a price to love FMA, a financial price, because I could have just done guns this whole time. I abandoned my cash cow. I abandoned 1 million subscribers on YouTube. If you look at the stuff that I've been posting on Funker Tactical, you'd be shocked at the amount of knife content I have on there, of PTK, of Balintawak. You'd be shocked. And if you look at the history, over 500 videos on Funker Tactical, you can see the transition when I made a stand and I said, enough with these gun stuff, you know, like nothing against that. I'm not talking about Second Amendment. I'm not talking, just for me, I found something that I could cling to: martial arts, fighting, MMA, empty hand combatives, knife, stick. And I've paid a financial price, man. My wife's had to go back to work. We're tightening our belts, you know, we're canceling things that we had because I want to promote FMA. And, you know, it's not a sob story because I love my life and I love the freedom and I love the creativity. But at the same time, like, people don't realize, like, man, I lost, like, you know, tens of thousands by showing love. But I'm happy to do it, you know.
Yeah, I don't take it as a sob story. I think it's good that we do hear that, you know, because these are the sacrifices behind the scenes, like you're saying, time away from your family, impact of expenses. I mean, these are the things we don't see. It's just easy to just log in, see a post here and there, see some comments and go, F this guy. You know what I mean? And not understand what it took just to put that one post together for you to even say something in the first place.
Or so what it cost, or what else I wasn't doing while I was editing this damn video about FMA.
Right.
I don't know how long it takes for me. I mean, I'm the fastest editor I know, and I dole out content really fast. But it's still hours of work, you know, to put out a GM Bobby video. Man, it's hours. To put out a Jared video, it's hours of work, man.
Yeah.
It's hours of work.
We could, man, Paulo, we could kick it for, you know, we got a question in the chat. Yeah, okay. There's a question in the chat.
Do me a favor. Don't filter the negativity, okay? Huh? I mean, I'm sure there's negativity. Don't filter it for my you know what I mean? Like, I need to hear it. I need to hear from the people who don't like what I'm doing as much, more than I do for people.
So what I was mentioning earlier, I wasn't going to filter it, but while we were talking, somebody was putting things like, I'm jacking off, like just crass, childish.
Does not matter.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't even like a question. Yeah. So it was more like, and then what's interesting is YouTube started like deleting it on its own. It could almost tell that it was just a waste of time. Right. But yeah, questions we're going to ask you guys. And so someone, do you believe PTK is a complete system? Why or why not?
I'm going to say no, not a complete system. And the reason why I think that is because I'm inexperienced and I don't know what I'm talking about. I really don't know the totality of PTK, but currently, from my limited perspective, I feel like it lacks a ground game. It lacks a ground game that is demonstrable, you know, because everyone says Dumog is, I mean, you're cracking bones. I'm like, well, an armbar is technically supposed to do that too. I'm sure you can find a way to throttle it. So I think PTK lacks a decent ground game. And yeah, I don't think it's complete. I think it's specific.
Interesting. So yeah, that's and can I bring something up? Because you bring it up. We hear this a lot about PTK empty hands and the PTK ground game, and we've even been hearing different practitioners that we know starting to integrate other kind of systems to get the ground game. And again, I guess this is kind of what Jen is talking about, coming in under a lineage. From the very beginning, and under Tuhan Ramel Total, the ground game, the empty hand game, the Dumag, the Dumpag, was exposed to us, you know, and nothing that honestly that I've seen anything on YouTube, maybe just snippets here and there of some people, you know, in a few years ago in the States, Tuan Ramel was doing 30-hour seminars of just empty hand ground game.
Oh man, see, and you know
30
what?
hours.
Twice, yeah.
So no, 3 times.
Three
So
times, right,
so
three
there were
times.
3 years in a row that he traveled to Florida to do 10-hour days, 3 days of just empty hand ground game.
And here's the thing, man. Jared also told me, and I've been bugging him ever since, that there are a series of PTK clinch drills. I'm like, and that's why I said no. I don't think it's incomplete because I haven't seen it.
Tuan Jared is just another great source. I know he's, you know, he's not going to let everything out the bag so soon, but you know, there's a. I'm glad that you said you don't know. So there's a lot about that. I wanted to not challenge you, but I'm really speaking to a lot of people that come to our school saying, "Where's the ground game? Where's the empty hand game?"
Well, let me say this: people say BJJ is a complete system. You know what I mean? People say karate is a complete system. So let me say this. Yeah, okay, PTK is a complete system. But I think no art is complete. Because to say an art is complete is to presume that you can't really learn anything of value from other arts. And I just don't believe that to be the case. But if somebody, I mean, if you tell people PTK is a complete art, just like when Eli Knight says BJJ is a complete art, I agree.
Yeah. No, this is good. We know you. We know where you're coming from. Let me tell you what the diehards are going to say, Paulo. Just, well, empty hand, single knife, double knife, single stick, double stick, improvised weapons, flexible weapons. So just the categories, because the categories go a lot, it lends the practitioner of PTK to say, we're a complete system in the sense that we're covering just a wide range of, on top of the philosophy, the culture, but I do agree, there's nothing really complete in a sense philosophically. I'm with you there.
And that's, in my opinion, that's what makes PTK complete, because it's incomplete in that once you learn principle and you've mastered the principle and concepts, you have an endless possibility as long as you're, you know, if you're learning and mastering the principles of what you're doing. Of course, you can, you know, there's going to be more room for growth and experimentation, but only after you've, you know, reached a certain level of foundation.
So if you want to definition, PTK is not only complete, it is overflowing, because it's so deep.
If you wanted to create a subsystem with your tripod, the tripod subsystem for cameramen out there, I'm halfway playing. Based on all the concepts of PTK. Okay?
Monopod over tripod.
Monopod, exactly.
Monopod.
Yeah. This is just great conversation. And Paulo, why I appreciate you is that we don't want PTK people to be in their bubble either. This is why I appreciate you. And I'm speaking for myself. Sometimes I could be in the PTK bubble. And, you know, we got to get out. We have to communicate. We have to bridge. We do so much bridging in PTK. What do you mean we can't bridge? You know, I think for us, and I think speaking for the diehards and going back to this thing about a complete system, some of us get nervous when we want to integrate things from the outside.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but to an extent.
In fact, PTK, and I don't know if this is a secret or not, but anyway, PTK, a condensed version of PTK, should be integrated into other arts, man. You know what I mean? It should be in a karate class. You know what I mean? And I know some people who are working not only on that. I also know people who are working on having a world champion MMA fighter with a base in PTK.
Wow.
And they will claim it when they win.
The future is unlimited, man.
Yeah.
You're a huge vessel. I love you, brother. You know, taking this time and talking with us, being a vessel, being patient with us. I know sometimes on the forums I've personally commented because I'm learning the right way to deal with some of this type of conversation. You know.
Yeah. And you know what? You're way ahead of the game, man. Because when I can see how much you two love PTK, and it's a lot easier to give a knee-jerk emotional response like I often do than it is to take a step back and absorb and maybe sleep on it. So you're way ahead of where I'm at in terms of how to manage this whole thing. And I can learn from you, man. And I do. I honestly do, man. Man, I just look at you and I'm like, oh, you exude like some energy that is both calming and scary at the same time. And when I first saw you, when you were teaching those cops the Tricom stuff, and I'll be frank, I come in, I'm like, oh, okay, who's the Rasta guy with the long dreads, and is he a student or? And then you started teaching, and then you started talking, and then you talked to me, and then I got to know you, and I'm like, man, the depth of this dude. And that's why, man, look, there was a comment when you posted the promo to this, some dude, and let me address this. It was a racist guy, straight up. And I contacted his friend, and he was like, oh, he's not usually like that. I'm like, there's no excuses for that shit. You know what I mean? A comment like that is deep rooted. So for those who are watching, you released a video about how I was going to be on People Talking Kali with you, and the guy commented, was like, oh, when I first saw him, I wanted to whoop his ass, but then I heard him talk, and he's a warrior, and blah blah blah. And then somebody said, why did you want to whoop his ass? And he goes, oh, because he's black and he had dreads, and that's for an ass whooping. And I'm like, and I said, fuck you to that guy, and I wasn't going to be diplomatic about it, and somebody commented me like, hey, you could have been more diplomatic. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be. This is my forum. This is my house. I get to fucking choose, and then even you're like, oh, I wanted to choose peace. And I'm like, no, man, I don't have time to change people who are like that already. You know what I mean? Let me reach out to the borderline, at least. That dude was just a straight up dick. Yeah. And so this is what I learned from you, though, because even that, in the presence of absolute fucking hatred, deep rooted, you commented with a fucking heart emoticon, and you were reaching out to this guy. I was just like, Ross, man. All right, well, fuck. Comment was about you. Like, I thought about that. I'm like, why am I being so fucking emotional about this? Why am I angry about this? And you chose love. I'm like, wow. So
your words right now, they're hitting me in the heart. All right. And now that we're over here just patting each other on the back, let me just say, that comment when you said that I needed you to say that. So thank you for that. I was going to be diplomatic. It hurt. And it wasn't even about that individual anymore. It was about letting other people who don't know me just kind of get to see my character. The words you're speaking right now, good brother, they mean a lot to Jenna and I. Paulo just met Jenna for the first time today. Feels like we've known you already. I'm looking forward to breaking bread and getting to see you outside of all of this and just,
man,
to a beautiful future.
I just want to clash sticks and train and feel energy. Yeah. I think, everything else is secondary to that energy you feel with another human being when you've got sticks or knives in your hands. Yeah. All this other stuff, man, I felt energies from multiple systems, from people who have just been learning it to Tuhans. I look forward to meeting and honoring Grand Tuhan when I see him in 2 weeks. But everything else is secondary to human interaction. And PTK, man, what a catalyst, what a vessel, what a vehicle to facilitate this kind of communication that I could not find in BJJ, in boxing, in Muay Thai, all great arts. But I could not find a better conductor to communicate with another human being at this level than PTK. Bottom line.
You're hearing it straight from his mouth, folks. I think for those of you who didn't know Paulo, you see where his heart's coming from just a little bit better. And Paulo, we agree with you 100%. It's about the human connection. It's just about people getting down, talking, and just being human beings together. Before we close out, good brother, one, let people know how they can contact you. Leave your information. I'm going to update it in the description box. And just any final thoughts that you just want to share to the community listening. You have the floor, good brother.
Take FMA and give it more than one shot if it requires it. Take it. That's it. forget about all that other stuff, man. They know how to find me if they want to find me. Funker Tactical, Paulo, it's not important, man. But my message is just take FMA, put something into it. And I don't care what system it is you take. But if you take PTK under the right people, it is like, I can't even explain it. I jumped into PTK fighting a Lakan Guro on the sands of the Philippines before any training. I got my ass kicked, man. Yeah. Like, okay, I don't want that to happen again. I don't want this to happen again. I don't want this to happen again. And I reversed engineered it. And so I'm a little bit harder to hit now, but at the same time, also, my other message is that sparring, fighting, these matches are in the very heart of PTK. It's in the fabric of our system. And I think the more we make this accessible to people, the less we demonize it, the less we make it about ego, the more people will get to do it and experience the beauty of a live energy, stick fighting with another human being. Nothing is more primal, man, than picking up a tool and trying to smash another human being. And if you can wrap that in love, brotherhood, that is the pinnacle of human existence, because there's love in there, there's hate in there, you know what I mean, which is two sides of the same coin, you know what I mean? There's competition in there. There's primal instincts being purged out of you. It is something that is unlike anything that I've ever experienced before. And that's why when people challenge me to a fight, I'm like, okay, sure, but fencing mask, gloves, 3-minute rounds, anything goes or whatever. I'm just like, yeah, I love it so much, man. It taps into you. You will get to know who you are if you do this. Take PTK, find the right instructor, and dive deep.
Wow.
That's my message.
Respect and honor. To quote Tuhan Phil Galinas about PTK, he called it a brutal system. The beauty and the brutality. It's a brutal system.
Yes.
Yeah. Jen, I feel closer, more connected with you after this conversation. You challenged us here today to think about some things. I hope we challenged you in a positive way as well. And we hope the viewers got a lot out of this. I know we did. This was great.
Yeah. And a sidebar, happy Father's Day to you both. I hope you enjoy your day and the rest of your day.
Teaching kids PTK, that's a whole nother, oh man, it's just love. It's love. And I thank you for inspiring me, man. And I've always been here for you. I was just waiting on an opportunity to help you out. I reach out because I think you're a true leader. And maybe this is a stop or maybe this is a destination. But wherever you go, you got my support, man.
Yeah. Paulo, you've been a huge influence. What he's saying is true. Behind the scenes, I've sent things to Paulo. I've asked his opinion. And as Jenna said, he responds back very quickly. And so keep inspiring, brother. We're over here. We support you. And, after we close out, if you just got a few more minutes for us to touch bases offline, that'd be great.
Of course.
But for everybody else, we want to thank you all for tuning in to this great, epic conversation. We want to close out. Loyalty, wisdom, respect.
Life, health, and success.
People talking Kali. Peace.